So we've been able to do all the prepping that we need to in pre-hard mode. So now it's time to go to our final destination, the Underworld. Well, we went there briefly in the last episode, but this is for real. So, what do we do in the Underworld? Well, believe it or not, there's a hot commodity down here, pun intended, called Hellstone. You find Hellstone in hell. I know, crazy thing. In order to mine this Hellstone, you're going to need one of those fancy pickaxes that you got from the evil bosses. Either the Nightmare pickaxe or the Crimson one that I can't remember off the top of my head. But you know what I'm talking about. So, you need one of those, and usually the best idea is to make an obsidian skin potion. They're not hard to make, and it gives you a couple minutes to be able to just sink in the lava and just go to town on mining. And the nice thing is, you stack up a bunch of mining buffs like I do, and you can just tear through all of the Hellstone that you need. You don't really need, like, a ton, but if you get some extra, it's not that bad, especially because you can sell a lot of the stuff. So it's still a good idea to grab as much as you can. You also need to mix it with obsidian, so make sure that you got some obsidian on hand. I guess you need to make potions anyway, so you might as well just gather some while you're at it. Now, what else are we using this Hellstone for besides, I guess, making a pretty penny? Well, there's actually quite a bit of end of the early game stuff. Starting off with the Flask of Fire. The only flask we've been able to make is actually the Flask of Poison, which is okay, but the Flask of Fire, unfortunately, isn't very useful considering we're in the Underworld and everything is immune to being on fire. Well, most of this stuff is being immune to fire. The actual boss of the Underworld has some parts of him that aren't immune, but it's not that big of a deal, and in all honesty, the Flask of Fire is more useful for stuff down the line. So, it's just something to keep your eye on. Also, yes, flasks do work with whips. Anything that is considered a melee attack will benefit from whips. So that means swords, yo-yos, axes, flails, all that kind of stuff. But melee exclusive accessories that give special buffs, like the Magma Stone, do not work with whips. They don't. It sucks. You'll get attack speed buffs, so like Feral Claws work with whips, but special like extra bonuses like tailored towards melee will not work. So you'll have to get your whip buffs elsewhere. That's, I guess, another reason why whip stacking exists, but I'm not talking about that. Next up is the Flamerang, which is an upgrade, I guess, to the Enchanted Boomerang. Boomerangs are kind of in a weird spot, similar to yo-yos, where, like, yeah, I guess you could use them, but they're not really in a spot where you'd want to use them. I think the Flamerang's definitely in a better spot than yo-yos right now, because it retains about the amount of speed that the Trimarang does, and it does a lot more damage. It doesn't stack, so you can't like throw it out all willy-nilly, but it's still pretty strong, so it's definitely an option for taking out demons that are flying around or whatnot, but it's an option. Hellfire arrows are also available. They're, I think, the strongest arrow damage-wise you can get in pre-hard mode, I would assume. I also believe they do inflict Hellfire, which is a different debuff than On Fire. Hellfire is actually what the Magma Stone gives you when you use it. Actually, now I think about it, I don't think I've talked about the Magma Stone. I will shortly. I guess, yeah, I never have. It's funny I'm mentioning something that I haven't mentioned before, but I swear, this is not out of order. This is important. Hellfire is good. It still doesn't apply to many things in the Underworld, but it's good to know for later, because these arrows are useful, because there's more things to do outside of the Underworld. Trust me. Yeah. Next up is the Imp Staff. The Imp Staff summons an imp. It flies around. It shoots fireballs. It has some iframe issues, because the imp uses, I think they're called global invincibility frames. It's similar to how yo-yos work, where if you were to be able to throw 2 yo-yos at once, which there's an accessory in Hardmode that allows you to do it, you can't hit the same enemy twice unless, like, certain things allow you to. I think it depends on, like, the size or whatnot, but that means that because of that, if you have more than one imp and they're trying to shoot the same thing, you might not end up actually being able to shoot it. So it's not as useful to stack compared to like a Hornet staff where they can stack up and hit multiple times. So definitely good to have one of, but multiple kind of diminish the returns. Next is the Molten Fury, which unfortunately kind of isn't that great. I mean, yeah, it does a bunch of damage, and any arrows that you fire become flaming arrows, which is, I guess, good. But the problem is that the Hellwing bow, which you also get in the Underworld, is honestly way better in every way. Like, yeah, it does a little less damage, but it's just better in every way. And it's kind of sad. The Molten Fury has really never been that great. I guess before the Hellwing bow existed, it was good, but now it's just kind of obsolete. You don't really need to make it. We also have a new ham axe available, so that meteorite one that you just made can be replaced, I guess, if you want it. The Volcano is next, aka the Fiery Greatsword for all you Terraria old heads that are watching this guide for beginners for some reason. Thank you, I appreciate it. The Volcano is relatively slow, it's large, and it inflicts on fire, I think. But most importantly, it is the 4th and final piece of the Knight's Edge. So now, if you've been following along and you've collected your Volcano, which you just got now, the Blade of Grass, which is from the jungle, the Muramasa from the dungeon, and the Light's Bane or the Blood Butcherer from the Crimson or Corruption Ore. You can combine it to make the, in my opinion, the best pre-hard mode weapon there is. Yes, it's just a melee weapon, but it's really good. And is also used to make stuff down the line, so if you're playing melee, it's honestly always worth making this, no matter what. Not only is it a free ticket to hard mode, but also it stays very useful throughout your entire playthrough, because it has even more upgrade paths later on. So it's just all around really good. Swords are fun. Speaking of also for melee, the Molten Armor is now available, which has the highest defense of anything in pre-hard mode. So if you are absolutely horrified of dying, and you want to get as much defense as possible, you can immediately, after killing the Eater of Worlds or Brain of Cthulhu, run down to the Underworld, grab yourself some Hellstone, make some Molten Armor, and essentially nothing will be able to kill you. Obviously, if you're playing on higher difficulties, that's going to be a bit more trivialized, but if you're playing on Classic, Molten Armor, you will not die in pre-hard mode. It will be very difficult to kill you. And last but not least, the upgrade for the handgun, the Phoenix Blaster, is also available. It's just a better gun. It's nothing fancy, but it is definitely a viable weapon. I don't use it because it's kind of boring, but it's 100% usable. Now, there is other stuff down in the Underworld that I kind of hinted at, speaking of the Hellwing bow, was shadow chests. I won't go over the loot just yet, because there's some other stuff that I want to talk about, but you can open them with that shadow key that I talked about from the dungeon. So just keeping it in your inventory somewhere, I usually favorite it so that I don't forget it. You'll be able to look and find all of these shadow chests. They're purple chests. They're in these ruined houses in the Underworld. You can open them up, and they have a special loot pool. And also have a pretty decent chance of containing some pretty good potions and stuff, too. So that's good. And also, all the pots and whatnot in the Underworld, in these houses, make sure that you smash them as well, because they also can have lots of useful items and pots and arrows and all kinds of stuff for you to use in your upcoming battles. So for the upcoming boss, you also want to start making a platform. At least typically for me, I make it stretch out really in one direction from the middle, and then I like maybe add a little bit more from the center. But considering the boss sweeps from one side to the other and will start whatever side is farthest from the center that you're on, so like if you stand on the right side, he'll come from right to left. You really, if you're playing optimally, or at least suboptimally, with using the stuff that I'm recommending, you should not run out of space. I don't even finish probably half of a platform stretching my entire world, and I've barely used about a fifth of the platform I built. So you don't have to spend like over an hour making a platform, but if you want to, you can, but you don't have to. You can make this out of either platforms or solid blocks. I use solid blocks because I usually just have more of them, but it's up to you whether you want to use something else or not. I'm not going to stop you if you decide to just make it out of planter boxes if you want. I don't know why you would do that, but you certainly can. You buy those from the Dryad, by the way. So there's a couple drops from Underworld enemies that I'm going to go over. That one of them is just especially important for a certain class in particular. That, I mean, it has like a couple good weapons, but it's the Demon Scythe. The Demon Scythe is 100% the best weapon for the Wall of Flesh, for Mage. It is undeniably good. It's, you kill just, I think voodoo demons can drop them too, but just killing demons will eventually get you the Demon Scythe. It is a relatively rare drop, but by the time you're done building your platform, you've probably gotten at least one of them. And if you get a bad modifier, you can always reforge it. But 100%, if you are playing as a mage, get the Demon Scythe. It is worth it the whole time. Another drop is the Obsidian Rose, which you can get from imps that spawn. This is used to upgrade your boots. You use it with that and a Lava Charm, which spawns in chests around where the lava layer starts in the underground. And I believe it's the Water Walking Boots, which you can get from water chests to make the Lava Waders, which is the last piece of our puzzle, comparing the all the upgrades, like the boots that we've had, from the Hermes boots to the Spectre boots to the Lightning boots to the Frostspark boots, all the way up to the Terraspark boots. Probably the best movement accessory, at least ground-based, that you can get in pre-hard mode. But, I mean, once you get into hard mode, there's a lot more verticality that's worked into dodging, which obviously I'm going to go over extensively because it's literally your main mode of transportation in that part of the game. But when you're touching the ground, you'll be happy that you got some spanky new boots. At least for me, I have pretty much everything except for the water walking boots. I can't seem to find a pair, so I don't have the Terraspark boots yet, but I do plan to get them at some point. Do I think you need to get them like 100% every playthrough? No. I don't think so. They are very nice to have, but you can honestly pretty guaranteed just stop at like Spectre boots if you want, or maybe Lightning boots if you want a little extra speed. But you don't need to go like the whole 9 yards. Like the lava immunity and all that is nice, but it's really not applicable for a whole lot. But it's just nice to have a full completed set of accessories, at least for me. So it's up to you if you want to worry about that. The Magma Stone, which I talked about a little bit before, is a melee accessory that drops from the lava bats that fly around all the time. The Magma Stone is really good. It inflicts Hellfire, which is a souped-up version of the On Fire debuff when you're attacking with melee weapons. Like I said, it's not particularly useful right now, but it will be for literally everything you fight outside of the Underworld, or pretty much everything that just doesn't resist it. And it's part of a collection of accessories tailored towards melee, so you'll want to pick one up guaranteed, just because later down the line you're going to be able to combine it into all kinds of cool stuff for your melee class. So, might as well stop and smack some bats around to try and get one. And the last enemy drop that I wanted to mention is the Cascade Yo-Yo. So, this thing is... it only drops after Skeletron's been defeated, and it also only drops in pre-hard mode. So, because once you go into hard mode, it gets replaced by a different yo-yo that drops from Underworld enemies. I don't care. I'm mentioning it because it exists. If you get it, and you're like, why did I get this? It's because it drops from enemies in there. Are you going to use it? Probably not. But it's a thing. So if you get the Cascade Yo-Yo, then you know why. Shadow Chest time. It's time for the Shadow Chest. Starting off in the Shadow Chest loot pool is the Sun Fury. Remember how I mentioned that the Meatball and the Ball of Hurt get outclassed by the Blue Moon, and then immediately the Blue Moon is going to be outclassed by something? Well, that's the Sun Fury. For some reason, the flail progression is just extremely backloaded, where all of a sudden you just immediately get a bunch of upgrades, but until then you just use the same one for half of pre-hard mode. The Sun Fury is very good. It does ridiculous damage. It probably has one of the highest damage stats in pre-hard mode. But flails aren't really that great for right now. Because, I mean, they're mostly good at fighting grounded enemies or really big enemies. And yes, the Wall of Flesh is big, but he also moves, a lot. And also, he speeds up. Which means your ball and chain is getting a lot less good as it speeds up. So, it's definitely probably usable, but you're going to want something with a lot more range and versatility compared to a flail. But it's still not terrible. The Flower of Fire is pretty unique when it comes to melee weapons. It has this, weird arcing motion to it, and it's affected by gravity. It's definitely interesting, and also inflicts on fire. I wouldn't say that it's better than anything you can get at this point. So I mean, you could use it against basic enemies. Oh, actually, in all honesty, most of the stuff in these shadow chests is going to be good for after you're done in the Underworld, because then you can use them to fight normal enemies on the surface and the stronger stuff from hard mode starting. But when it comes to anything that's happening right now, it's not particularly useful, but it's decent. I would say that it's a bit more flexible than the Demon Scythe is, because the projectiles are much faster and can bounce around and are just more flexible. Speaking of flexibility, the Flame Lash is a upgrade to the Magic Missile that you also just got. Don't throw the Magic Missile away, though. It's used to make something later. But the Flame Lash is essentially the same thing, where you can click and kind of throw the projectile wherever you want. So, once again, I'm not going to use it because that's not my kind of gig. But if you want true control over your magic weapon, then that's probably about the best you can get. Next up is another melee weapon. It's the Dark Lance, which actually is a little bit better in the more recent updates, because it has a little thing at the end now, so it gets a little bit of extra range. And I think it inflicts Shadow Flame now, which is a relatively powerful debuff. So, in all honesty, from recent updates, it's honestly probably a contender to be a Wall of Flesh weapon. It was pretty good before, but if it does have kind of the extra power that it has now, then I think it's honestly probably a pretty good idea. But if you're playing melee and you're not going for the Knight's Edge, I don't know what you're doing. So that's kind of the problem with any like melee weapons right now, is that like you're contending with like the best weapon in pre-hard mode to be usable. So that's just kind of stinks for them. But it's still good, and good for stun locking enemies. And last is the Hellwing Bow, the thing that makes the Molten Fury completely obsolete. It's super unique. It turns wooden arrows into these flaming hellbats. They're a bit erratic in projectiles, but they cover a relatively small range, so they're not like super like all over the place, and they fire relatively quick. Their damage is good, and especially for the wall, being able to shoot and hit multiple sections is just really, really good. And honestly, it is damn near made to fight the Wall of Flesh. Am I good at using it? Not really. We'll get into that later, but it is very good. And if you can figure out how to master this thing against larger enemies, it is fantastic. Now, before we get into fighting the wall, I want to talk a bit about some buffs. Mostly fishing-related buffs, because I like to randomly bring up fishing whenever it's applicable to what I'm talking about, but I'm not going to go in depth into fishing because people have done that way better than I am, and also I don't like fishing that much. Well, I do, just not in Terraria. So, for all classes, I'm going to start off with the Endurance Potion. So this is a 10% damage reduction to everything, and it is gotten by using a armored cavefish, which you can fish up from the underground layer, or like the cavern layer, underground, anywhere in that area, which is just an all-around, it's a good thing to have if you're struggling on a boss, if you're taking a lot of damage, if you're dying relatively quickly. This will help you stay alive, which is good. And the second potion is not actually able to be like made right now, but you might happen to get them from like shadow chests or smashing pots. Life Force potions, they increase your HP by 20%. So obviously much better if you already have max HP, or well, the max HP you can get for right now. But they're definitely a trump card in your arsenal if you are struggling. Having an extra 20% HP is a lot, considering, especially on a lower difficulty, that gives you several extra hits. So that means a lot. But I would say, unless you're really stuck, I would definitely save them for later, because these things are definitely much better suited for the more difficult fights in the game. The only way to make them is to get Prismite, which are in the Hollow, which we haven't gotten yet. It will spawn after the wall is dead, so we kind of have to kill the wall to be able to get them. So it's really just if you get some, they're nice, but maybe don't use them if you don't have to. Next up are two different potions that kind of do the same thing but differently. So they're not the same, but they... Anyways, the Rage Potion. Rage Potion gives you 10% crit chance. It's given to you by the Hemo Piranha from the Crimson. I think anywhere in the Crimson, or maybe it's just the... Maybe it's just the surface. I'm actually not sure. I'm going to assume it's the surface, because I think there's different underwater or underground catches. Or maybe that's just in hard mode. I don't know. But anyways, if you fish in the Crimson, you will get a Hemo Piranha Gives you 10% crit chance in a Rage Potion. Or, if you're in the Corruption, you can get a Wrath Potion, which gives you just 10% damage. You get that from an Eboncoy, which is caught in the Corruption. So, they basically do the same thing. 10% damage is more self-explanatory. 10% crit chance, depending on what build you have, can be really good or just kind of good. So, it's, they're both good, respectfully. So, they're just, if you need more damage, then there you go. Now we're going to get into more, like, class-specific stuff. We're speaking over for Ranger. Melee gets skipped because it doesn't have anything. The closest thing it has to potions is flasks, which I kind of already talked about with the Flask of Fire and the Flask of Poison, which aren't not particularly useful right now. And I guess the Titan Potion, but we don't need knockback right now, so I'm not talking about it. So for Ranger, the first thing is the Ammo Reservation Potion, or Conservation Potion, or whatever it's called, which makes it so there's a 20% chance when you shoot to not consume ammo. And it's gotten from the jungle surface when you catch a double cod. This is not great, but there's certain weapons that it's good for. The one that you're definitely thinking, if you're going to use the Star Cannon, which is awesome, by the way, I think you should use it. Obviously, you have to farm up some Fallen Stars, but 20% chance means that every 5th star, you might have a chance to be able to not use it. And for a weapon that has relatively difficult ammo to get, not using ammo sounds pretty good. That's pretty much the only time I would actually say to ever make these, at least for right now. There are some weapons later down the line that they might be useful for, but they're very few and far between, so it's not great, but it exists. Next up is the Archery Potion, which increases your bow's damage by 10% and the arrow velocity that you shoot by 20%. I think. I'm going to assume it's the bow's damage and not the arrow damage, because I'm pretty sure the arrow damage is static. It's just what it is. But if you're using a bow, like I am, because I'm going to use the Hellwing bow, and you want to use something to buff your bow, then I'd say use an Archery Potion. In all honesty, whenever I do play Ranger, for quite a while, I do actually use bows, and I kind of forget, like, you stockpile Archery Potions, like, all the time. Like, you get them from everything in the early game. So, in all honesty, they're pretty easy to come by, so they're definitely something nice to have. Next up is Mage. There's 2 potions that I want to talk about. The Magic Power Potion and the Mana Regen Potion. Both of them very self-explanatory. The Mana Regen Potion regenerates your mana, and the Magic Power Potion increases all magic damage by 20%. If you're playing as a mage, these are basically your bread and butter. Every fight you should be going into, you might as well make one of these. I don't know exactly how the Mana Regen Potion works. I tried looking it up, and I basically didn't get an answer. So I'm going to assume it just has something to do with possibly starting your Mana Regen, like how the mana regenerates. It starts earlier after you stop using mana. Or maybe it just helps with the speed of the mana recovery. I do not know. But all I know is that it helps you do it faster. Yeah. And last is Summoner. With probably the most straightforward and probably desirable potion on this entire list is the Summoning Potion. If you catch a variegated lardfish in the underground jungle, I think I said that right, you just get an extra minion slot. That's it. Just +1 minion. It's what more could a summoner want? So if you're struggling as a summoner and you're just like, man, I wish I had one more minion, well, there you go. There's your one more minion. It's just that easy. Just do some good old fishing. Alright, but it's enough delays. It's time to talk about the Wall of Flesh, one of the coolest bosses in Terraria, and also probably the most important in the entire game, considering half the game is locked behind killing it. In order to summon this guy, you need to kill the guide in lava in the Underworld. So, obviously, you don't want to tote the guide down here. That would take forever. But, luckily, there's some kind of voodoo demons that spawn very rarely. Or, well, very rarely, just rarely. And when you kill them, they will drop a guide voodoo doll. When this voodoo doll falls in lava, either by you throwing it, or if you happen to kill a demon and it falls in the lava by accident, and you rudely summon the boss, then, well, yeah. Although, if a doll falls into lava and the guide is dead, it will not work. So make sure that your guide is alive before trying to summon the Wall of Flesh, so you don't just waste a voodoo doll and then feel bad. And then the guide spawns and you're like, oh, I definitely didn't just try to kill you, even though you weren't even alive. My bad. And also, how the wall spawns, I touched on it a bit before, but basically, depending on what side you are from the center of the world, depending on if you're on the left or the right, it will spawn on that respective side. So, if you're facing towards the right of the world, or, well, you're on the right of the world from the center, it will spawn on the right side, and it will sweep towards the left. If you're on the left, it'll sweep towards the right. Basically, when you're building your platform, you want to extend out to one direction, throw the voodoo doll out into the lava in front of you, the wall will spawn in front of you and come towards you. So it's fairly self-explanatory. He's a pretty standard boss to summon, but obviously the fact that you have to make a platform over all the murder lava, it's a bit of a pain. But let's actually go over killing this guy. So the main thing about the wall is that it's always moving. It's always going towards the edge of the world. So you want to keep moving. The eyeballs will slowly shoot lasers at you, which will gradually speed up as it gets lower health, but also it will speed up, the entire wall will speed up while it takes damage. So the lower health it gets, the faster it moves. But the stars of the show are the little tendril dudes that are attached to the front of the wall. These are the hungry. These guys do a lot of damage, especially when they're disconnected and start flying around. You 100% want to make sure that you are killing them right away, not only because they have a chance to drop hearts to be able to heal you from taking any damage, but because if you don't and they disconnect and they start flying around and they hit you, they will do a lot of damage, especially when the wall gets lower health. Also, sometimes the wall can spit out leeches that act as little worm enemies. I believe these guys have a very high chance of dropping hearts, so if you're low on health and you're running away and you hear the wall throw up, essentially, he spawned a leech somewhere and it'll be heading towards you for a free health pickup. So isn't that nice of him? And the only other thing to mention is don't touch the wall. He does not like being touched and will deal a lot of damage to you. And if you're thinking about trying to escape, you can't. If you try to escape the Underworld while fighting the wall, you will die. And also, everybody who is not currently in the Underworld will get forcibly pulled there by the tongue. And then probably die immediately because of the wall's contact damage. So just be prepared when you fight the Wall of Flesh, because it's a very hands-on deck fight, which is good. So now let's go over our classes, starting with my favorite, Melee, which was the second fastest to beat the wall. Melee is rocking the Molten Armor, Feral Claws, using the Grindstone buff, and the new Magma Stone. Now, luckily, despite the wall being completely immune to most fire debuffs, I believe the hungry are not. So it is worth it, actually, to still use a fire buff to be able to help kill the hungry and the leeches. So, is it necessary? No, but it's nice if you have it. So you might as well just use it. Of course, for the weapon I'm using, it's the Knight's Edge. The Knight's Edge, after 1.4, is an absolute wall of flesh machine. So, especially because you can hit 2 segments at once. I should have mentioned before, but you want to be hitting the eyes because they have, I believe, no defense. Or at least lower defense than the mouth does. But if you can hit 2 segments at once, that's even better. Depending on the size of your arena, the segments of the wall will kind of move around. So if you want to make like a super small arena, it's easier to hit all of the segments at once. But if you have a spread out one, then sometimes you might just have to jump and fly around in order to hit the multiple segments. But I'm pretty lax when it comes to my platform, so I honestly don't care. I'm not trying to make anything super duper fancy, so, but it gets the job done either way, so I'm not super worried about it. Next up is Ranger with the slowest time that I had, mostly because I'm not that experienced using the Hellwing bow. I'm using the Necro armor, the Stinger necklace. I'm using wooden arrows because that's how the Hellwing bow gets its special property. And for my honorable mentions for other weapons, I'm going to throw in the Phoenix Blaster just because it's very consistent. And for that, you'd probably be using Meteor Shot. Just because since it has the extra piercing capabilities, being able to tear through the multiple hungry is probably a good idea. Or, if you want to use the Star Cannon, this would be the time to use it. Now, kind of, for the Hellwing bow and both the Star Cannon, kind of your goal is to shoot upwards towards the wall. After you clear the hungry, you want to try and shoot as many sections of the wall as you can. So you want to kind of shoot up at an angle to be able to both shoot the mouth and the eye kind of while you're moving. Obviously, this is much easier with practice, but it's definitely the best way to utilize these weapons, since not only do they basically pierce everything, but also it just makes their fast fire rate doubly effective since it's hitting multiple segments. But if you only can hit one segment, or if you're in a cramped spot and you can only hit the eye or the mouth, then you're still dealing damage. So it's not like it's the end of the world, but it's just a little strategy when using these weapons that you might want to take into account. Next is Mage with the 3rd fastest time that I had. I'm using full jungle armor, I'm using the mana flower, and I'm using the celestial cuffs. For weapons, I used both the Aqua Scepter and the Demon Scythe. I love the Aqua Scepter, it's underrated, and it is a hungry destroying machine. Because of the way that the projectile is spawned, it basically just annihilates the hungry all at once. So it's just really good. And then you basically use the same strategy that I was talking about with the Hellwing bow and the Star Cannon, where it's a bit harder to pull off because the Demon Scythe has a delayed projectile, but essentially you kind of want to spawn it kind of where it's going to fly up as you're moving and hit the other sections of the wall. So it's super basic, and the nice thing is the Demon Scythe does a ton of damage. So in all honesty, yes, you're going to be right in front of the wall when you're doing this, and you're going to be taking a decent amount of damage, but you do so much damage in return that you're probably going to win the DPS race almost every time. So it's definitely not a worry that you're going to die. The only thing is if you're not fast enough and the wall starts catching up, then you might have to start switching to something else. But if you're kind of building your characters like I am, you'll have plenty of speed to be able to get out of the way. And last but not least, rocking the fastest time to kill the wall of flesh with my builds, it's Summoner. I used obsidian armor, I used the stinger necklace, pygmy necklace, feral claws, and the bewitching table buff. So that gives me 4 minions. I used the spinal tap, and my minions of choice were 1 imp, 1 hornet, and 2 vampire frogs. Vampire frogs are awesome for this fight because since you're building a platform, they'll be able to jump and hit the segments pretty much the entire time you're fighting. I decided to use an imp just because I felt like it. They do a lot of damage. Are they particularly great against the wall? They're okay. And I wanted to use the hornet just because if it has a chance to be able to poison the wall, since it's not actually immune to poison, I figured I'd give it a shot because why not? But in all honesty, probably the best way to do the wall is just like 4 vampire frogs and just spam the crap out of your whip on the eyes. Nice thing is, too, the spinal tap's really good at hitting multiple enemies, so you could just shred through the hungry with just your whip, and then just try and focus the eyes or maybe multiple segments at once. Because I don't know how whip tag bonuses work, but I don't know if like they get extra damage if you hit multiple segments at once, or if you just only hit one. I have no idea, but I was trying to just target one spot. But I don't know. It worked really good, so whatever I was doing was working. And once you kill the wall, not only will hard mode begin, but also you'll get a collection of items that I figured I'd wait till the end to talk about, considering, well, you won't really care about beating them because you have to beat the wall in order to progress, so you'll get them when you get them. The wall will always drop the Pwn Hammer, which is some classic old internet humor thrown into this video game. You can really tell that it's from like 2012. The Pwn Hammer is able to smash demon altars, which we will be doing in the next episode plenty of to be able to get our brand new hard mode ores. And it also glows a little bit, and yeah, that's pretty much it. It's funny how we're making like ham axes, but then we still need to use the Pwn Hammer. I don't know. The Breaker Blade is a really big sword and a really big Final Fantasy VII reference. It's also not very good. It's very slow. It does a decent amount of damage and it's really big, but it's not any better than like most of the stuff you already have. So it's just kind of a funny weapon, but it's not like great. It's not like it's embarrassingly horrible, but it's just not very good. Turning on its head to something that is very good, the Clockwork Rifle is actually pretty cool. It fires in bursts, which means that its DPS is actually kind of ridiculous for a gun right now. And basically outclasses anything range that you would have had at this point. So this will just shred through like everything at the start of hard mode. So if you get one of these and you're playing Ranger, then you're pretty much set. The laser rifle is the second magic gun that you can get in the game, since the space gun was the first. Well, actually, no, that's not true. It's probably like the third because you can get Zappinators. This is not helping the laser rifle's case. What I can say is that the laser rifle is good. It doesn't cost a lot of mana, its projectiles are very simple, and it's just good. It's just a good, simple magic weapon. And simple is good. The Firecracker is also dropped, which is the third whip that we could get? Well, I guess fourth whip, counting the leather whip. So, I don't know if it might be worth fighting the wall multiple times as a summoner to try and get the Firecracker because it's really good. It's a bonus is that it like does explosions when it hits enemies, which does bonus damage, so it's definitely worth getting if you're playing as a summoner. And last are the emblems. There are 4 emblems, one for each class. And in all honesty, they even if you get one that you don't want, not only can you refight the wall as many times as you want to get more, but also they're used not only to make some accessories later down the line, but also once I discuss the shimmer, which was a thing added in 1.4, which I'll talk about next episode along with everything else. You can interchange them, so you don't have to worry about getting like the perfect stuff right away. But I definitely recommend, at least if there's one thing that you definitely want, is if you're playing a summoner, probably try and get the firecracker. But if you don't get the other stuff, it's not that big of a deal. I think you'll survive without the laser rifle or the clockwork rifle, and you definitely will survive without the breaker blade. But other than that, that is about everything that wraps up the Underworld and the Wall of Flesh. So I think that's going to do it for me. In the next episode, it's going to be a long one, because I'm going to cover basically everything that you can do in free hard mode before your first mechanical boss, including Queen Slime, because Queen Slime actually has good drops. Well, she has one really good drop, but I'll talk about that next time, and it's not next time yet. So, until next time, see you guys later, have a good one, and bye-bye.